everybody. Welcome to your first official breakout session of TechEd 2011. They tell me I'm supposed to start exactly on time, so that's what I'm trying to do. My name is Janelle Crothers. This is my 8th TechEd, so I'm really excited to be here again this year. A little bit of advice if you're a first-time TechEder. Be sure to pace yourself. It's only Monday. There's a lot to do between now and the attendee party on Thursday night, so make sure you pace yourself a little. I'm sure you read the abstract for this session. It's going to be pretty fast-paced. I've got a lot of demos to go through, and I tend to talk pretty quickly. So if you need me to repeat something or want me to run over something again, or you have a question, feel free to just call out or walk up to one of the microphones. I should be able to take a question or two as we go through the demos, and we'll have some space at the end of the session to take more questions. So a little bit more about me, though. I've been a Windows Systems Administrator for about 13 years. I'm a second-year MVP, and I work for a little company in California called the Conservation and Liquidation Office. We take over failing insurance companies on behalf of the insurance commissioner, just for the state of California, though. So if you're not from California and you're not an insurance company, it's all good. Anyway, we have a really small IT team, so I'm all about tools that make managing my desktops and my domain easier. And hopefully that brings you to why you're here, optimizing our desktops. So why should you optimize your desktop? There's a lot of great reasons up on this slide. More data protection, more secure web browsing, better administration, reduced help desk costs. But when push comes to shove, desktop optimization helps you bring a more consistent, secure, and seamless experience to your end users when they access their data and their applications. And happy users make you look pretty awesome, and it gives you some time to work on some of those more interesting projects that you might have on your to-do list. So what is in the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack? First off, it's a bit of a tongue twister of a name to say, so I'm probably going to call it by MDOP, its acronym. And within MDOP, there's 6 and soon to be 7 tools, and they all come with their own acronyms too, so be warned. So we're going to dive into 7 common administrative pain points and 7 applications that can help. So our first pain point is going to be managing and controlling group policy. Now, I'm not really concerned about the size of your IT organization. It can be big, it can be small, but you all know that group policy change control, using the out-of-box MMC console and the snap-in, leaves a little to be desired when it comes to change management. I can't always remember what settings we've made in our organization, and we're small. I don't even change them very much. And I can't remember from time to time whether this policy was implemented for this group of users or whether my colleague made a change. And if you're in a big organization who tweaks a lot of policies or have a lot of administrators that manage group policy, it can be really difficult to track down what happened and how to solve a problem. So the Advanced Group Policy Management tool adds a version control, change control mechanism to the MMC snap-in that you're familiar with and gives you a really easy way to roll back policies so they can be so you can restore a previous policy in the event of a problem. You can delegate roles out to your different help desk users or different people on your team. You can be as granular or as not as granular as you want. And you can export these policies from your test to your production environment. So you can easily test them in a safe environment and bring them into your production environment when you know you're ready to go. You can also define a workflow with approvers and editors and reviewers to ensure that everyone on your team is aware of pending changes and they've all been reviewed before deployment, so everyone's on the same page. And because it's a server-based technology, you only need to install a small client on your administrative workstations, so you can get started using this tool right away to take advantage of the benefits. So let's take a look at this tool in action. Our first demo. So I'm logged in here as a network administrator, and you can see the regular snap in for group policy management. And down here at the bottom, we've added a change control section. This whole change control area is the AGMP. In domain delegation, this is where you add your users and define their roles, whether they're a reviewer or an editor. And production delegation will actually let you have people who can manage the group policies the old-fashioned way. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what Ichiro here can do. If you notice, if he tries to change and edit a policy over here, the edit section is grayed out. So he is forced to use the change control area in order to make changes to policies. So he's going to play with the Windows sales team. And first he can check the history and see how many different changes have already been made. So you can see he's been playing with this already. And to get started, he has to check it out and put in a comment. The comments will show up in that history, which is a great way to kind of keep some context as to what's going on. So once he's checked this out, he can now edit it. All right, let's go into user policies. He wants to make sure that everybody's visiting his favorite homepage. And he actually happens to be a big eBay fan. Not really sure that's going to go over with administration. Oops. Forgot my HTTP. But we'll give it a try. So he's going to save that policy and check it back in. Now, on the back end, there's an AGPM server that's added to your organization that actually holds all of the policies before while they're in the change control process and while they're in, before they're actually pushed to production. Oh, there we go. Now, he's pretty sure he's done with it, so he's also going to ask for it to be deployed. And what this is going to do is it will try to send an email. Email's not configured for this little demo I've got, but you can set a group or a user who will be the person to be alerted that you've got changes that are pending. So now this is going to show up in the pending. So now we'll pop over to an administrator. And he's going to look at our pending policy. Now, he doesn't know what changes were made to this unless the comments were really filled out. So he's going to check out a difference report. And this will show us the differences between the policy that's in production and the policy that was just changed. Yes, it does. When we'll look at the history again, and you'll be able to actually see all of that in there. Oh, will you know who made the change? Who created the policy? The original policy? Yeah, that's in there as well. Here's my IE. Here we go. Allow my blocked content. There we go. OK, so once this report generates, you can see down here in the green that a policy was added. and the administrator can check out the details. If something was taken away, it would show in red, so you could make several changes to a policy and see them all. Now, you can see that the administrator's probably not real thrilled that everybody's homepage is going to be eBay. So what he's going to do is reject this. And that'll get sent back, and it sure is going to have to try again. Now, once this is deployed, I can go back to this control. We'll pull up this history again. Since we had a question about the history. You can see that in production, it was created by the administrator, checked in and out a couple times, and all of the changes. So all of this is in here and can be reviewed at any time. You can also see how many unique versions of the policy exist. So this is where you could roll back to previous versions. If a policy that went out into production was wrong, you could come back into this unique version, roll back from the one before, and push that out to production. One of the other benefits that you get with this particular tool is the ability of a more refined search. So if you have hundreds of policies and you know you want to search for just the ones for Win7, you can just type that into the search box and that will filter. You can also filter by the person who made the change, and you can also filter by the change date. So if we want everything that was changed this week, it will just bring up the policy that I just changed today. All right, so our second pain point is troubleshooting unbootable PCs remotely. So that means our second stop in our MDOP tour today is the Diagnostic and Recovery Toolset. This kit is a must-have in your system administrator bag of tricks for more than one reason. There's actually 14 tools in Dart, and that it's going to allow you to recover unbootable PCs, access deleted files, manipulate services, reset some passwords, and you can also detect and remove malware. So let's take a look at Dart. It's not just limited to unbootable PCs, though. And you can use these tools to minimize the recovery time of a PC so that you don't have to reload Windows or re-image a PC. We're constantly re-imaging PCs in my organization, and there's always one application that's missing or some settings for the end user that they take a lot of time customizing their desktop, and when you re-image it, it's a little pain point for them because they can't get working the way that they're used to. So if you could just recover the PC, Dart might be able to help you do that. Let me get over to my...
What if Windows 7 is encrypted?
That's a good question. And I don't know the answer to it. That's okay. It's such a good question, you can actually have a prize. Come down to the MDOT booth later and we'll find the answer out for you. You're welcome.
One question.
Yes?
Are all of these tools of MDOT launched from the same server?
No. You can install the tools wherever you need them to be. So the MDOT pack is system assurance. You download the whole kit, but you can install like AGPM you can put on your domain controller or on a separate machine. If you're using any of the other tools, you can put them wherever you need them to be. So you can customize them to your enterprise however you'd like. Okay, so I am going to start up a client machine. Now you can build the Dart tools anywhere you'd like. You can boot to a CD or a DVD or a USB stick. You can put an image on a deployment server, or you can actually include Dart into the regular recovery partition of a Windows 7 installation so the tools are really right where you need them. In this example, this actually booted from a CD, and we're just going to say, oh, I'm sorry. There's my client. This booted from a CD. We're going to ask it to remap. And this is the standard recovery environment if your Windows 7 box had failed. And we'll see that the Dart tools are going to be integrated into this. Start Windows 7 here. Okay. So like I said, here's the regular system recovery options. And down here at the bottom are the Microsoft Diagnostic and Recovery Toolset. Here's the 14 different tools. Now what's neat about this is with Dart 7, you can actually customize which tools your end user are allowed to actually use. So you can leave, if you've got a remote office or an office with lots of floors, you could leave some CDs or have this in the recovery environment for your end users to access. But if you don't want them playing in the registry or you don't want them uninstalling hotfixes, you can set permissions so that they can actually, those are grayed out, so they can only get to the tools that you need them to use. You might want them to use Explorer or the standalone system sweeper. So what we're going to demo is the remote connection for Dart. So this is going to have the user open up a remote connection. And you can see it's giving us a ticket number, and it's waiting. So now we're going to hop back over to our help desk person. Let me get this out of the way. He's going to start a remote connection. Move these around so I can see my information here. Okay. It's obviously assumed that you'll be on the phone with the person that's having problems with their computer so that they can give you this information. In the current beta version of Dart, you can actually specify the port number. If you're crossing a firewall or something and you need to change the port number, you can specify that. So once it hits connect, you'll be able to see, here they are controlling the other machine in the background there. So he can shrink that down. He can kick off whatever tools he needs to kick off to fix this PC.
Once you're remoted in, would you then be able to run some of the tools that you had hidden, like registry?
Yes. If they were hidden, once you remote in and you're connected as an administrator, those tools will actually ungray. So it's a nice little feature to keep your users out of the sandbox where you don't want them to play, but for you to get the access you need. Okay. Switch back here. All right, so that was our demo of Dart. All right, our next...
Would you mind repeating the question for some of us on this side of the room?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I will do that. So that question was, once you've connected to somebody's remote PC, the tools that you grayed out for your end users, would you have access to? And yes, you would. Okay, so next up is managing applications and remediating conflicts. Now, as I mentioned, I work in the insurance industry, and you wouldn't believe the number of legacy applications we run across when we're dealing with insurance companies that we're working with. A popular one for us is Access 97. It's still out there. And I'm sure you know that if you've got a current version of Office installed on a machine, you can't then install Access 97. There's just too many DLLs shared in there, and it just doesn't work. So AppV would be a potential solution to a problem like that. It allows you to virtualize applications so they're contained in their own sandbox and they're not truly installed on the client machine, so they're not going to conflict with applications that are already installed. It also gives you an easy way to upgrade and manage applications with reduced disruption to your users, and it speeds up your testing and deployment process. So even if you don't have any conflicting applications, using AppV for streaming makes the application available immediately to your end users and only requires the first 20 to 40% of the application to be streamed down. You don't have to wait for the whole application to install. In an example, if you're pushing out applications through Active Directory or potentially through another deployment tool. This also reduces the complexity of your operating system images. So you can get less images out there, less images to manage, and probably about 50 to 90% less effort with your OS deployments. You might be able to just have one version of your image and control which applications users have access to by their group membership. So I'm going to shut down a few things here, and then we will switch over. Now, you can see, though, that AppV takes away several common steps in your deployment process. You're going to immediately lose the need to package software as an MSI. You're not going to have to let users know that their PCs are on. A lot of less compatibility between applications. And your mobile installations, they can actually get them a little quicker too, because once they're streamed down, they're cached. So they can take those applications with them. And then the next time they're in the network, they can get updated versions of the applications automatically. Let me load up. What I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the new sequencer. So if you've done anything with AppV over the last year or so, it almost seems like you have to be a sequencing expert to get all of the little pieces in there the way you want. In AppV version 4.6 Service Pack 1, they've really improved the sequencer to kind of help you along if sequencing isn't your only job. Like I mentioned, I'm in a really small shop. We wear a lot of hats. I don't have all day to learn the ins and outs of sequencing applications. But with the new wizard, I can do it pretty quickly, at least for the simple applications. So I'm going to fire that up. Wait. I'll unpause that. So let's fire off the sequencing wizard and take a look at that. Okay, so we're going to just start with the new virtual application package. And we're going to create one by default. Package accelerators are new. This is where you can use a previous recipe that could be built by somebody else in your organization or somebody else that you know from the internet or from a forum to automatically package a application that would be difficult to package otherwise or that you might not have the experience packaging. It'll build a little accelerator, and then you just pair the accelerator with your media, and it will build it for you automatically, and you won't have to go through a bunch of the sequencing questions. Windows search is active. Gosh. Once you get started, it will let you know if you've got any problems on your workstation. So let me refresh that, and other applications are running, so it doesn't like this. All right, now I'm down to previous package created on this computer. We're going to let that one go since I did create a previous package on this computer. In your environment, you'll probably want to roll this back or use a virtual machine so that you can always have a fresh version of the operating system to do all your sequencing on. I'm going to go with a standard application. You can also sequence add-ins or plugins and other middleware to be combined with other packages. So here I'm going to select the installer. The previous versions of this sequencer didn't actually prompt you for an installer, so it would just get ready to record and kind of leave you waiting, and you wouldn't necessarily know what you were supposed to do next. But this will actually start the installer when it's ready to record. I'm going to set my package name and wait for this to kick off. I have to apologize for the lag. I've got like 7 machines on this VM. Now we're going to wait for the application to start. This is going to let me know that I should wait for that and not click finish until I'm done. Okay, so here's the setup installer for XML Notepad. You'll want to run through your system setups. Oops. A couple times to make sure that the application is running the way the end user wants to see it. Some applications, depending on how complex they are, they do one thing on the first startup, asking you to accept a license agreement. The second startup, it might do something else. So you're going to want to start the application a couple times while you're doing the package. This way it captures all of that.
Are you then installing this on a machine that's similar to what?
Yes, so if you're going to be doing Windows 7 across the board, you would install this on a Windows 7 client that has the sequencer installed. This way it's collecting all of the changes to the operating system that it's making for the little bubble package. Yes? Oh, what was the question? What client would you install? What client would you be running the sequencer on? So you'd run the sequencer on the version of the operating system that your end users would be using. Okay, once I'm finished, it will say I'm finished. And it's going to actually start the README, because that's what it does. I'm finished. So now it's going to collect up a bunch of the system changes as part of the package. Obviously, I went with XML Notepad because it's small. I don't have a whole hour to wait for this to package. But depending on your application, if it's a complex installation of Office or some other enterprise application, it may take a while to collect up all the changes. Okay. Now, here's where you might want to kick off one of them again, just to make sure that you've clicked all those first tasks. You've added your license agreement. You might have to put in some licensing keys. While it's doing all of this, it's recording all of the changes in the background. What changes to the registry, what changes to the file system, all the components that will be necessary for this application to run on the end user's box. Okay, so there's XML Notepad in the back. It looks like it's running fine. I'm not going to run the README. This will give you additional information you may want to check out to make sure that your application's installed the way you want. Okay, now you can stop at this point, and just create a basic package, but we're going to customize it a little bit more because we really don't like the README shortcut that it's going to put on people's desks. So I'm going to take that out. I could run it again to optimize the package. Now, this is a small application, so I would stream this application down to the user's desktop all at once. But if you have a large application like Office, if you open it up at this point and start off the features that the users would most likely use, that will package that in a first part of a bubble that will go down first and save all of the rest for when the users want a different feature. So for example, you'd open up Word and you might do something that kicks off the spell check or kicks off some other components that your users always expect to use right out the bat, and then finish this package. So those features will be in the first bit that's streamed down to users, and the whole rest of the package will wait until the user's doing other things or they call for other features. So this is telling me that since it hasn't been launched, the entire package will be loaded at the first time the user uses it. But I'm going to go with that. You can also restrict the operating system. So if this is a 64-bit machine, so it's only going to run on Windows 7 64-bit. But if it happened to be a 32-bit application, you might be able to run that on a 64-bit machine, so you can control which machines this will get pushed out to. And then I'm just going to save this off and call it a day. Any questions so far? Any more questions so far? Everybody doing good? All right. All right, we did our AppV demo. So our next pain point is applications that are just outright incompatible with it. Oh, yes?
I do have one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
The AppV application that runs on the local computers, does it have access to every resource that a locally installed application would?
Yes.
Can you associate a file, say if you've got Excel that comes down with AppV and you want to open a CSV file, can you associate CSV with an AppV application? Because the computer's not really aware that it's installed, does it?
That Office is installed? Yeah, it is, but it isn't aware, kind of. But yeah, there's actually a whole lot of other tweaking and changes that you can actually make to all of the applications to support things like that, so that the user is getting the experience that you want. I didn't go into them because XML Notepad certainly not going to have that. But yeah, there's a lot of different features that you can activate. You can change registry settings. You can change things, directories, and all that sort of stuff. So, okay, applications that are incompatible with the operating system. Now, some things just don't run on Windows 7. For AppV to really work, the application that you're sequencing to has to be that application has to run on that application. But if you don't have an application, or your application doesn't run on that version of the operating system, you're a little stuck. So a solution to that problem could be MedV. So not every company is as nimble as the latest Silicon Valley startup, and a lot of companies make changes that are probably about the speed of getting through airport security, which I'm sure a bunch of you already did. So this is how you get that application up to speed so that you can not be tied to a version of XP, and you can start upgrading to Windows 7 sooner than later. I'm actually not going to show you MedV today, but I do want to cover a couple of the key features, and you can check out a MedV demo down in the Technical Learning Center sometime this week if you really want to see it. But by using virtual PC technology, you can address the compatibility issues in Windows 7. MedV is often compared to XP mode, but it differs because the XP images can be custom configured and managed as part of your enterprise. In the new 2.0 version of MedV, no servers required. Previous versions of MedV actually required a server component to manage all of that. But now you can create a workspace package and just deploy it using your existing tools like System Center. And applications that you install in MedV are automatically published to the Windows 7 Start menu. And the My Documents and the desktop data is redirected so it can be used between the physical Windows 7 box and the MedV virtual machines. So from an end user standpoint, the applications are just available just like any other application on their Windows 7 box. And they run on their desktop seamlessly. Many of your users might not even know that they have a version of XP running on the back end, and which pretty much means there's no user training required, and I always like that. MedV also supports web redirection, so you can redirect specific web pages to older versions of Internet Explorer within the XP virtual machine. So if you have a homegrown application that only supports IE6 and you still need to run that, when users open up IE8 or IE9 and type in that URL, MedV captures that, realizes that the user needs to be running IE6, moves the user session to IE6, loads up the application, they work as usual. Then when they're finished with that application and they happen to still be in IE6 and they type in a URL to go to a different website, MedV realizes that no, you shouldn't be browsing on this unsecure version of IE. It'll move you back to one of the more current versions. So that happens all automatically. Now, what's really cool is that you can combine AppV with MedV. So you can control the deployment of the applications that you want on your XP box through AppV as well. So you can deploy one MedV image for XP, control the applications through AppV, and all of your entire enterprise is managed with the same subset of tools. There's also a monitoring and troubleshooting capabilities within MedV, so you can control the overall health and the environment that you have with your XP boxes. It doesn't matter whether you've got 5 or 100, you can still use the same tools. So like I said, if you want to check out more of MedV, go down to the TLC area, and there'll be people down there to help you out with that one. Okay. Our next pain point is figuring out what you have installed and what you may need, or in this case, not need. So that's going to bring us to the 5th tool in our kit, which is the Asset Inventory Service. Now, this is a hosted service that enables you to collect software inventory data and limited hardware data. The service resides in Microsoft's data centers. You register online through the volume licensing service to use a live ID to gain access to it, and it's secured over SSL, and everything's protected on the Microsoft data centers. There's a discovery agent that you install on your PCs, and what's nice about that is because it just uses the internet to connect to a cloud service, you'll be able to collect inventory on workstation or on laptops for users that tend to be out of the office. One of the pitfalls of an in-house inventory service is that your road warriors and your users that are out of the office a lot, those computers aren't updated in your inventory service as often as you might like. So with this, they'll update over the internet automatically. Now let me get out of here and show you this one live. Now the catalog that Asset Inventory Service uses is the same one that is used by System Center. So it will dynamically figure out different names between software names and publishers that could be redundant. So some applications are published by Microsoft and other applications are published by Microsoft Corporation. Those won't show up as two different companies. We all know that that's the same publisher. And Asset Inventory Service is smart enough to do that for you. So let's take a look at this. Right off the bat, you have access to your client software. This is generated specifically for your organization, so you would download this bit of the client software, and it's keyed to your system.
This wouldn't be something you need with SCCM.
No. Would this be something you need with SCCM? If you've got SCCM, the full package, no, you probably wouldn't need this. This is for organizations who aren't interested in running the full version of SCCM. They just want to take advantage of some of these other tools. So we're not going to install the client, it's already installed, but let's take a look at some of the menu items here. So the Computers tab will actually give you a list and a summary of all your clients, what version of the operating system they are, the last time they updated. You can drill down into any one of these, and it will give you a little detail about their hardware that's running on them, their processor, how many disks they have. So you can get quite a bit of information about your machines, what IP addresses they're using. And then on the software side, it will list out all the software that they have, the publisher. It'll also categorize things so that you can sort and run reports pretty easily. All of the reports are printable and exportable. You can export to CVS, so if you want to generate more detailed reports with charts and things like that for executives, you can export all of this information and use it in another IT management, asset management tool. Yes?
Do you add applications that may be custom, like in-house developed?
Any application that's installed should show up. That if it shows up in your add remove programs and things like that, it will show up here.
What if it's not necessarily installed? Just buying, regular buying custom, such as
Be in like your registry.
right.
That I do not know the answer to. So since you stumped me on that one as well, you get the last of my prizes. Cool. That's another good question for the TLC. So if you come down and check that out, we can probably find that out. But I'm going to say no. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say no. What it will tell you, though, is if you're using AppV, it will tell you whether they're virtualized or not. So it will know if you've got a virtualized version of the software on there. But if your software is not showing up in like any of the normal places, then I don't think it's going to show up in here. I got a couple other questions.
Does it show you, it says all your computers, does it show you how many computers have Office?
Yes, yes. We can actually go that, yes, will this show me how many computers have Office? It will. If we actually look at the software side, it will reverse the reports for you. So we can go down and see how many people are running Gears of War, and Halo 2. But we can drill down into all of these, and it will list out all of the computers. So you can see it both ways. Yes? No. Well, what do you mean? Clients that have, right. You only have to install the little client that you download from here, and it should report on that. You do need software assurance and the appropriate licensing to use this tool. Once you have that, the little component, it should report on everything that you install the little component. This is only for desktops, though, so it won't work on servers. So this is a desktop inventory management tool.
You say you have to install it on every desktop?
The little agent, you need the agent. So there's an agent for all of the desktops so that it will actually do the reporting and so that it can log in and put it in the right spot.
Are there several, for all these tools that you're showing, like you said, there's agents for this one, is there agents for other tools?
There is an agent. Is there an agent for other tools in this package, was the question. There's an agent for this one. There's an agent for AppV. And there's an agent for MedV.
And those are all,
Part of, yeah.
but I mean, are they all separate?
They're all separate.
Earlier, someone had asked whether Dart considers BitLocker.
Yeah. Thank you. There's the answer. Power of the internet right there. Yeah, yeah. Hand up your prize. Okay, back in with the red. The new version of this. Let's see. The new version of asset inventory. Yeah, there's the beta of this one out. The old console. Yeah, unless you have the beta of this one. The new version of Dart I know comes out in Q3. I'm not sure of the date. I don't want to give you the wrong date because I've got several of them in my head. So. Yeah, this one does. So this version does. Yes. Anybody else, or can we go move on? Yes.
Will it show me how long it's been since the certain client has used the application?
Will it show you like the last time it ran the application? No. All right, we're good? Okay. One more, okay.
Any easy way to deploy the client other than putting it into like a standard image?
You mean the little tool? You should be able to deploy it any other way you deploy stuff. But yeah, you've got to, it's got to be on the box. So you mean like, can we do it like remotely, like push it out to some?
Some people go out to a web browser, put this link.
No.
Just deploy it through SCCM, you'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. Come on, you got SCCM, right? No, you have to deploy it. They can't go download it. They'd need to log on in order to download it, and you wouldn't want them doing that. Ad hoc in what sense? It's straight out of the box with this. Can you do any custom reports was the question. It's straight out of the box, but you can download all the data into a CVS and then import it into another tool. So if you want to run pivot tables off of it in Excel and stuff like that, it will export to CVS. So you can modify it from there. Let's see. So where was I? Okay, so we looked at the computers tab, and now we've had a question that brought us over to the software tab. So this will show us the computers that are running this bit of software for us. Another thing that you can do is you can add your Microsoft licensing agreements right into here. So what's nice about this is you can run an installation report and it will compare it to your Microsoft licenses. So what's nice about this is it might help you save a little money, because if you've got Office Professional Plus and you've only got it installed 16 times, but you have almost 400 licenses, you might want to consider with your next licensing cycle to make a little change. And that might save you some cash. This is only for Microsoft products, so you can only put in your licensing for your Microsoft agreements.
So does it register with the MDLS site?
It looks up the stuff. Because you put in your license agreement number and it finds it for you. And let's see. Like I said, you can generate these reports in XML, CVS, TIFF, PDFs, web. You can just print it out. And you can also filter the results. So you can put your computers in groups and things like that and run your reports on the different groups to generate the reports that your end users might need. Okay, let me switch out of here. Okay, so our next pain point is provisioning BitLocker and monitoring the compliance. Now, if you ask me, BitLocker is really pretty cool, especially when it comes to your traveling executives and things like that. They have a tendency to, I don't know about yours, but mine have a tendency to lose things. And so using BitLocker is a great way to protect your user's whole computer. But up until now, it's been really hard to sort of manage. I don't know whether this executive has this box encrypted. There's only so much that the end user can control themselves in BitLocker without being an administrator. So one of the solutions to this is the BitLocker administration and monitoring tool. This is actually going to be new this is coming out in Q3. The beta version's available now, so you actually can download this and try it out. And what it's going to give you is an easier way to enforce your BitLocker policies, recover your keys, and report on your compliance. You're going to see a web page that provides a central access point for your administrator and your help desk staff to look up key recovery information, run compliance reports. The key recovery data is actually moved out of Active Directory into a secure SQL database. And there's, once again, a client-side agent that provides end users who have non-administrative rights a little bit more leeway when it comes to performing some of the basic BitLocker tools, like changing their TPM PIN and things like that. And let me show you this. So we're going to take a look at some of the MBAM reporting tools. Start that up and switch over here. One of the other things that MBAM will do is it will regenerate the recovery keys after each use. So after you've recovered somebody's laptop, and they've printed out the recovery key and put it in their laptop bag, and when they lose it again, the same key won't be able to be used again to recover that hard drive. So you're not giving the keys to the kingdom away to somebody who might not deserve them. So here's the BitLocker Administrator and Monitoring webpage. We're going to start with the reports mostly today. There we go. So with the Enterprise Compliance Report, oh, really? I was doing so well. You always got to have one that's going to kill you on the live demo. Let me make sure my service is started. It always works in your hotel room. It's a true statement, isn't it? I said somebody agree with me. All right. It looks okay. Go. me just refresh my page. Seriously. Let me make sure my other box came up the way it was supposed to. Yeah, that's running. Yeah. I thought my SQL service was running. Yeah, it's there. Oh. That'll probably do it. There. See if it gives me some love now. Looks like it's working. So is anybody using BitLocker already and finding it difficult to report compliance to their SOX auditors and things like that? We've got some, I see some hands. Yeah. So once this actually does load, you'll see that it gives you a great way for you to generate reports and kind of answer some of those questions. Here we go. So we can see with this compliance report that we've got 7 managed computers. And it's going to tell me which ones are compliant, which ones are non-compliant, and why. Some of them are obviously going to be hardware exempt if they don't have a TPM chip, don't meet the hardware requirements for BitLocker. You can also sort. No, I only want to see the non-compliant ones. You can drill down into any of them, and you'll get more details. It will tell you the volume letters, what type of protector they're using, what the encryption state is, and things like that. You can also search by computer compliance report. You can search by user. So if you've got a user who uses several computers, you can search by that user. It will come back with all of their computers and all of their compliance level and give you the same type of information. Here's somebody checking their voicemail out there. So that's some of the compliance reporting. Now for drive recovery, you can control who in your organization is allowed to recover drives. And this gives you a quick and easy way, if it would, there we go. So you can just, I can't actually show you a client because I can't virtualize a client with encryption. But when a client fails, you get that box where it tells you, give somebody this key, and then you'll get the regeneration key. I'm sure people who use BitLocker are familiar with that. You can put that key right in here. And I'm going to put in a key and give a reason. And it should, if it's going to behave with me today, regenerate . There we go. There's my recovery key. So I can actually save that off. I can email that to them. They can check it on their phone. If I was really desperate, I suppose I could read that to them. But you can send that out to them, and they can recover their hard drive. And then that will get automatically regenerated so that the next time they need to recover that same hard drive, they'll get a different key. All right, let me hop back over. to my presentation box. Where did the key ID come from? When the failed workstation itself. Okay, so our final trouble problem here is capturing and monitoring desktop error trends. Now, if some of you are actually already using System Center Essentials or System Center Essentials, you already have this particular tool, but it's desktop error monitoring. Desktop error monitoring is designed to empower your organization to proactively manage and operate system failures. I don't have a live demo of this one either today, and especially since my last one was kind of questionable with the reliability. I think I'll stop while I'm ahead. I do just want to mention that it leverages the features of System Center, so if you don't have System Center already, this is a great way to sort of get into it a little bit with the desktop error monitoring. And it takes the built-in error reporting tools of your desktop OS. You know this as the little Watson errors or the familiar, send this data to Microsoft pop-up box when something crashes. So it takes that data and it captures it on a server on your end so that you can report on it, see what applications are crashing, and perhaps put out patches and collect all this data so you can use it to proactively solve the problems that people are having. I'm sure most of you who, if you work in help desk or you deal with end users a lot, most of the time something like this happens, they just hit, oh, it crashed, and they restart it. And they go through that a few times before they actually put in a help desk ticket. So by the time they're calling you because Outlook crashes a million times, Outlook, they're already frustrated. So if you're capturing this data ahead of time, before they're telling you, you can look and see, well, we've got problems with Outlook on these workstations, and you can go proactively solve those problems. So you can measure the impact of your action and just generally improve your end user satisfaction. Yes, question over there.
At the moment, users can say not to send the data to Microsoft. Does this tool take that policy away and enforce it?
There is some group policies on the end, and I believe you can change that because there's a group policy that tells it to not send it to Microsoft, but to send it to you instead, and I believe you should be able to control it. Yeah. Yeah. There's some tweaking that you can do to it on the back end. Yeah, and then you can also, from your server, then send it to Microsoft if you need to. Yes?
Can this tool be configured to email the help desk personnel?
Now, because it's part of System Center, it probably could. I've never done that in my organization, so I don't know the answer to that directly, whether you can. But if you're using this tool, and it's kind of one of those tools that when you're doing your monitoring, it's one of those things that you sort of keep up and check in on a regular basis. So you really shouldn't need it to email you because you should be kind of looking at it. But because it's part of System Center and there's all those alerts, I would say you probably can. But don't quote me on it. I would like it to. It's a good feature. All right, so moving on. Actually, we're done. So quickly recap, we've got 7 common problems, 7 potential solutions, all wrapped up into one product download, the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack. So definitely be on the lookout for the 2011 version. If you're looking for more information related to some of the tools in MDOP, there is a breakout session on BitLocker administration and management. They'll go down into that a little deeper. There's several on my Microsoft Diagnostics and Recovery tool set. There's also a hands-on lab with the 7 beta version running. We've got a whole product demo station down in the Technical Learning Center, so you can find me there later, and I'll be there a couple times this week. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm JKC137, and I write a tech blog called Tech Bunny. There's some other resources you might want to check out. Visit the Cloud Power area. It's the whole big blue section. You can see some demos of the private cloud, System Center, Forefront down there. And there's other resources for while you're here at TechEd and afterward, TechEd Online. Obviously, you know about my TechEd, I hope. Microsoft Learning and TechNet and MSDM. And finally, be sure to complete your evaluation for this session and all your sessions. You're entered to win several great prizes. And if you visit the MDOT booth down in the TLC, we're also taking a little survey for your current use of MDOT down there. It's 5 questions, it's really quick, and you're entered to win an Xbox for there as well. So I've still got time if anybody has any questions, or if you want to try to catch up with me later, you can find me down at the booth, and I'll leave a little stack of business cards up here as well if anybody wants to grab those. There is our scan tag, so you can easily get to your eval. I'll leave that up there. Yes?
For the AT&T product, is it an all or nothing thing for managing GPOs, or do you select particular GPOs that you want to begin to manage?
You can select particular ones to manage. So you can pull out your managed ones and your unmanaged ones, and then you can give people only permissions to the ones that you've managed and things like that.
When you selected the GPOs to be managed, when you make changes, is it on a particular domain controller, or do you have the option to select what domain controller to write the changes to?
The changes are all made on the AGPM server, so they're not made live on any of the domain controllers.
They're not live, but when you go to write it, you
Oh.
say, I want to write it to this domain controller that is kind of working, that is closest to the client I'm testing with.
Not that I'm aware of. Another quick, okay.
Yeah, just kind of more of a looking at going in and beginning to use it.
Uh-huh.
Would you say it's easy to start using it pulling in 1 or 2 group policies at a time, or if you're already getting ready to rebuild your entire domain, to install it from the beginning?
It's actually really easy to install. You don't even have to install the server side on your domain controller. And what's really kind of great about that is it's not tied to there's several versions of AGPM, but it's really tied to the server you install the AGPM server side on and what you're running on your client. So the current version that's out there now is version 4.0. You need to be running Server 2008 and Windows 7 to use it. But if your domain controllers are still kind of down level, you're not installing anything on the domain controllers. The domain controllers will publish any policy you want. So the change control is just for your workstations, and to control the policies, your old domain controller 2003 will push out whatever. So you can use it really quickly, and it's not actually going to affect your domain, and you can, like we said, you can control which policies you want to deploy, so you could pull in a couple just to test.
I guess the thing is more or less we're actually rebuilding our entire domain structure right now anyway, so the question is, should I go and install it before we start working with group policy, or does it really even matter?
It probably doesn't even matter. From your standpoint, you're going to be rebuilding. Part of me would say go ahead and just wait and put it in fresh with your new domain. But if you put it in with the old domain, it'll give you an opportunity to play around with it a little bit more, so you'll be a little more familiar with it when you're using it for your new live domain. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you behind the monitor. They're just a little shorter, but anyway, go ahead.
In the Dart demo, we've seen a tool to remove malware and stuff like
Yes.
that. Is there a chance, or do we even have to need to update the pattern for that?
It will connect to the internet, and
Oh, it will. So no need for that.
yeah, it should be cool.
What is moved? What is used to remove that stuff? Is that security essentials, or?
It's built into Dart. I don't know what engine on the back end it is off the top of my head. Yes.
Quick question on the BitLocker
On BitLocker?
compliance reporting. What exactly is it? Currently, we have around 600 Windows 7 machines in the pilot that are running.
Mm-hmm.
And early on, we did not enable BitLocker.
Right.
We did not enable PPM, antivirus, and we started doing that around February.
Okay.
Now we want to be able to go back to those devices and identify which ones are ready.
Right.
For BitLocker, so we can push it out. Does that compliance report provide us that data?
It will give you more hardware information. Actually, I've got it.
Does it look, so it looks at all the machines?
You have to have the client. There's a little client that you have to push out to install, because the client will add on some of your other tools that'll let like your end user change their PIN and stuff like that. But you can actually look at your hardware inventory and determine whether your models are capable of performing BitLocker and things like that.
Can it tell you which ones are already enabled, PPM
Um,
enabled on the device or not?
If you've already, it should, yes. Come down and double check, because I'll have to double check on it, but this should be able to look back and figure out which ones are already in your, once you install the little client on, it should be able to report that it's already running or not. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Good question.
Uh-huh.
MDART,
The Dart, okay.
DART, is it, can only be run in the recovery console? It doesn't work like a WinDNC or?
You've got to boot into it, so it's a little environment that you boot into.
Second question for the
I mean, yeah.
advanced GPOs.
Yeah.
Is there, I'm constantly running into, okay, I can set my, I don't even know what the setting. I can set one setting in my user setting and the other in my computer setting.
Uh-huh.
And the two conflict.
Right.
Is there any report to say, hey, if you put it over here, it's going to get overrated?
So will it help you? Will it watch you when you're writing your group policies and tell you when you're screwing them up? No.
Will it actually fix somebody else's?
No, it will not fix your screw up for you, but it will tell you where.
Somebody else's.
And it won't, oh, of course it's not your screw up, it's somebody else's screw up. But no, it won't be able to tell you that these conflict, but you will be able to see on the HTML reports all of the changes and drill down through them just as easily as you would on the things. And you'll see everything that's changed, so you won't have to kind of, when you're in the regular thing, you sort of have to click through all of the things to see what's changed. The report will give you a little more conciseness as to what you're looking at, so you're going to have a better shot at finding conflicts. At least it's not going to raise its hand and be like, this one conflicts with this one, fix that. You're not going to get that. You look like you have a question.
The asset intelligence service,
Yeah.
it looks very similar to what's included in Intune.
It is very, yeah, there's a little, yeah, it's, I believe it's using a similar, Intune is using a similar engine. Yeah, it is actually almost exactly the same thing. Yes.
And with that
AppV, okay.
you mentioned
Yes.
usually it's a larger application, and then there will be a portion of it caches, and then depending on who uses it, will see the rest of it.
Yes.
If you're using a Windows VDI
Mm-hmm.
for piloting, we have a lot of applications that we still need to take a look at and rebuild or do that beforehand. So if you get a Windows 7 VDI and you deliver an application,
Mm-hmm.
a Windows 7 environment that has hard drive as far as space available. Is there something that is thrown out in the event that there's not enough space for caching? If somebody clicks on the application,
And it's not going to, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one because I don't quite know how well it's going to work with VDI, but I would imagine, and I really don't want to speculate. I really suggest coming down. We'll talk to some of the guys down on the floor, and we'll be down there too, and I can ask around. But we are in the TLC area under Windows Client, and there's a big one that says MDOC on it. So,
With regards to DART,
Dart.
what are the necessary tools and steps that you use to implement the deployment of Windows 7 that it includes a separate partition, in particular you will have DART into that, full deployment that you want to have the partition with the OS and then you want to have the partition with DART.
I'm actually going to tell you, if you want to really know the answer to that one, you should stay, because following me is actually a presentation on deployment, and I believe including those tools. But when you want to set up Dart for the first time, you build out your Windows 7 box. When you're going through the standard recovery partition, Dart has a whole little wizard. So you load up the Dart wizard, and it'll step you right through creating the partition, the recovery environment with the partition with Dart included.
Okay, so then basically once you create that environment, you just grab that image and it's going to have DART.
Yeah, right in there with the regular Windows system recovery. So it helps you, and it also helps you, they've got a wizard to help you create the CD, the whole 9 yards. So anything that you need, it'll wizard you right through it. The gentleman back there. Okay. To pop up the recovery image? I believe so. AGPM, yeah? Uh-huh. Oh, no, you have to use the regular group policy bit for your resultant set of policies. of, and all of the policies that apply, like the whole domain. No. Yeah, that's a big one. Versus running it individually with every little like. And which ones aren't running the right policies and aren't processing policies correctly?
Sometimes WMI is jacked, sometimes they don't run scripts.
Yeah. And you only know when a user calls and says this doesn't work the way I thought it was going to work, and you realize that their WMI hasn't been working and stuff like that. No, I don't know anything of kind of company-wide at the moment for that. Yes, the very excited woman in the back.
What size organization do you start to make sense for? 20, 30, 50, 100? I mean, that's what
10. Probably 10. Anything that you're doing, you have to be a software assurance customer to have access to MDOP. So, but the tools are designed for, small to large. So I would say probably 10 to 20. As soon as you're thinking about doing kind of software assurance or managing your licenses in that way, you're going to have access to the tools. You might as well use it. So you can go pretty small. Yes? For AppV? Oh, so has that improved any? I haven't compared and contrasted over the last couple of versions recently. They are trying to kind of make some improvements with kernel drivers and stuff like that, but you're still going to run into problems with applications that need to directly work with other applications. You'd either have to include them in the same package or put them in a dynamic deployment package so that all of those things work together. So there are some improvements on that way for making the applications work together. But you're still probably going to run into some issues with ones that are really kernel driven and things like that. Yeah, I don't think browsers are generally a good candidate. Office they've made a lot of improvements with AppVing Office, because earlier they used to have problems with if you were AppVing Office, you couldn't use some of the features of SharePoint because you couldn't load that page, SharePoint, the IE didn't know you were running it and stuff. They've made a lot of improvements on that line. They do suggest, though, one of the things that I did see is it almost still makes sense, though, to kind of put Office, I don't know, I'd probably still install Office locally. I'd probably include that in my image, though, just because it is such a key application, and save my AppVs for some of the other stuff to start. That's me. I'm a conservative administrator, so I usually roll things out really slowly. Let's see. I'm leaning toward more like situations where you're just, I would say, like installing like individual bits of Office, so like just like Access 97 and things like that. Usually we tend to use it mostly for, like I said, we're a pretty small shop. We use pretty standard out of the box stuff, so we tend to use it for, Adobe and all of the other stuff that our end users need on their machines. We don't use it for Office, and we don't use it for our enterprise imaging system. Yeah, like Reader or even the higher versions and stuff like that.
When you have a complex application like that, like let's say Office, you have 7 applications you do that.
Right.
Would you rather do it one app at a time separate instead of just doing it customized?
See, I just slap it on my image in the first place because Office is going to everybody. AppV is really kind of great for, you've got your HR people and they need these applications, and, your other people, need different things like that. that's how I use it. Like I said, we're a pretty conservative organization. We have not a lot of end users, so we don't really use it all that extensively. We're just kind of, we're still playing with it. I am not an expert sequencer by all means, which is why I love the newer Wizard, because it kind of helps me along. But if you read the sequencing guide, it even tells you that if you're not an expert sequencer, start with the smaller apps first so that you're comfortable with it. Yeah, I wouldn't try to be like, let me sequence Office with 62 different, language packs in it and stuff like that. Personally, I wouldn't go there until I was much further along. But anyway, I am nearly out of time, and we need to let the next person